And what is the evidence that you rely on for the belief that the DEI agenda will produce better returns? Is there any study, report, analysis?
You know, as an investor, I read research reports constantly. I probably read 5, 6, 8 of them a day.
You don't have any basis to disagree with the agency you've been a part of leading, saying that the DEI hires aren't doing as well as the non-DEI hires.
As I say, when we think about diversity, we think about diverse perspectives being brought to bear on investment decisions.
Right, but okay, so those are two different things, Mr. Bienvenue. Is CalPERS voting against people as directors for companies based on their skin color?
That was Matt Gaetz of Florida questioning the Chief Investment Officer of CalPERS, which is the California Public Employees Retirement System. This exchange is interesting for two reasons. One, he is a typical witness who's kind of trying to weasel his way out of not answering any questions, but it also shows how quickly the entire ESG or DEI sort of mindset can break down when you're just asked some simple questions, which in this case, the witness was trying to claim that having diverse employees somehow leads to better investment opportunities or better returns. When Matt Gaetz asked how he came to that conclusion, he really doesn't have an answer. Even worse than that, Gaetz actually brings up a study done by his own organization that showed employees who were hired because of DEI actually performed worse than people who were hired based off of their merit. It's almost like being underqualified for a job leads you to not be as good at that job. What a crazy thought, I know. Here's the clip of their full interaction, and after it I'm going to play Harriet Hageman of Wyoming questioning the same witness. And he's very evasive in their back and forth as well.
How much do you invest each year on behalf of how many of your members?
We manage a $500 billion portfolio on behalf of our 2.2 million members and beneficiaries.
And you've highlighted your principal responsibility is return for those beneficiaries, right?
Correct. Everything that we do every day is about generating returns to pay benefits.
And you've worked there 20 years. You've been the principal deputy since 2020, right?
I was named the Deputy Chief Investment Officer in August of 2020, or I'm sorry, in April of 2020.
Okay, great. And so I think there's some parallels between what's going on with ESG and DEI. You don't deny that CalPERS has a DEI agenda, right?
CalPERS is all about generating returns to pay benefits, and every topic that we approach is through that lens.
Well, does DEI improve the returns to your investors?
I think part of good governance of a company is having diverse perspectives brought to bear as they manage that company, and I feel strongly about that for the investment team that I lead also. We want diverse perspectives.
And what is the evidence that you rely on for the belief that the DEI agenda will produce better returns? Is there any study, report, analysis?
You know, as an investor, I read research reports constantly. I probably read 5, 6, 8 of them a day. So over the course of my career, that's probably been thousands.
I know, I'm just wondering, is there one that kind of sticks out in your mind? You can say, Congressman, I'm here to do good by these 2.2 million beneficiaries, and my embrace of DEI, this is what I can point to as the evidence that's helping them.
Every data-based study can tell lots of different things, and every data works that way. That's the way investing works. And remember that when we're focused on investing, we're focused on how we—
Mr. Bienvenue, you can either cite a study or you can't. You can't, right? Okay.
In the thousands of studies that I—
Just name one. Okay, well here's what, I found a study that actually CalPERS did. You guys did this study. It's entitled Emerging Diverse Manager Data Report. And I'm citing from I'm citing from the 6th page of report where it says, since inception, current diverse managers generally underperformed non-diverse managers in the asset class in the policy benchmark. Are you familiar with this report?
Can I see a copy of that study, please?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record the Emerging Diverse Manager Report published by CalPERS.
Without objection.
I'm not able to show it to you now, but you don't have any basis to disagree with the agency you've been a part of leading, saying that the DEI hires aren't doing as well as the non-DEI hires.
As I say, when we think about diversity, we think about diverse perspectives being brought to bear on investment decisions.
Right, but okay, so those are two different things, Mr. Bienvenue, because on one hand, there's provide returns for my investors, and what your own data says is that your DEI hires underperform there. And then on the other hand, you say, well, all these diverse perspectives are really important. But I worry about the market manipulation and the bullying, because as I review what CalPERS has put out under its own investment, guidelines, you brag about the fact that you voted against 768 directors at the companies you invest in most recently, and then in the prior year, you'd only voted against 133 directors. So is CalPERS voting against people as directors for companies based on their skin color?
We take up every vote independently based on the merits of the vote itself.
Right, but do you ever consider like someone's skin color? Because it's pretty immutable. People don't choose to be white or black or Asian. They just are.
We choose based on what will make the best oversight.
You're under oath here, Mr. Bienvenue. Can you deny under oath that CalPERS is voting against directors based on the color of their skin?
I can tell you we make every vote based on what will make that the best board for oversight of that company.
Right, but the best board is actually not doing so well. So, Mr. Chairman, let's look at the scorecard. In the state of Florida, where we aren't pushing ESG and DEI, the Florida retirement system is netting a 7.5% notch for the fiscal year. May I enter that into the record?
Objection.
And CalPERS reports only 5.8% for 2022 to 2023. Can I enter that into the record as well?
Without objection.
So you're not performing as well. Your own data says that your DEI hires aren't performing as well, and you were there for 20 years, and you applied twice for the chief investment position, and you were passed over for that position twice, and you said you weren't going to apply for it the third time because you'd been passed over twice, and I guess they've hired an immigrant to do that job instead. Do you think that maybe you were passed over for some of these DEI reasons?
CalPERS hiring decisions is their own hiring decisions, and I'm not really a part of that, candidly. Clearly
you aren't, and I think we all know why. I yield back.
Mr. Bienvenue, in your testimony, you state that, to be clear, this is engagement, not divestment. We would agree, which is why the report this committee put out yesterday came to the same conclusion. Where we disagree is that your engagement is designed to fundamentally change business and industries to the detriment of consumers in a matter which is indeed not collaboration, but collusion. CalPERS is a founding member of Climate Action 100. Is that correct?
Climate Action 100 Plus was founded by Ceres, and CalPERS was involved in its creation early on.
And CalPERS is a founding member of Climate Action 100, correct?
CalPERS is a founding member and a signatory to Climate Action 100 Plus.
And Climate Action 100 has 170 focus companies, 42 of them being oil and gas companies. Is that also correct?
Climate Action 100 Plus has 170 focus companies and 42 oil and gas companies where we come together and discuss ideas and make independent decisions on how we. So
my statement is correct. Is that right?
As I said, Climate Action 100 Plus has 170 focus companies, as I said in my opening statement, and 42 of them are oil and gas companies where we come together to discuss independent.
And one of the objectives of the Climate Action 100 is for these focus companies to reduce their emissions. Is that correct?
Climate change is something that is happening.
Would you please answer my question?
There's context to your question.
And one of the objectives of Climate Action 100 is for these focus companies to reduce their emissions. Is that correct?
Climate change is something that is happening.
Is that correct? Answer my question, please.
As I say, climate change is something that is happening.
Andrew Bihar, the CEO of As You Sow, testified in his deposition that, quote, an oil and gas company could not reach net zero while continuing to produce fossil fuels, unquote. And As You Sow President Daniel Fugere testified that, quote, ultimately fossil fuel use has to be reduced, unquote. And GFAN's co-chair Mark Carney testified to the committee that, quote, more than half of the world's coal reserves need to stay in the ground in order for the world to be in line with Paris, unquote. So for the 42 oil and gas companies that Climate Action 100 focuses on, the way for them to reduce emissions would be for them to reduce their outputs. Is that correct?
Can you repeat the question, please?
For the 42 oil and gas companies that Climate Action 100 focuses on, the way for them to reduce emissions would be for them to reduce their outputs. Is that correct?
What we focus on with the companies that we engage.
Why won't you answer my question?
I'm attempting to answer your question.
No, you're not. You're trying to avoid it.
What we focus on with the companies that we engage is for them to be long-term
and to reduce their outputs, correct?
We would never suggest that an organization that is an oil
Is
company.
CalPERS committed to pursuing policies which cuts fossil fuel outputs, even if that would increase prices on the American people?
CalPERS is focused on generating returns to pay pensions over generations.
And even if it makes it more difficult for them to put gasoline in their cars?
Again, our North Star is about producing returns to pay
That's not
pensions.
what you write, and it's not what you've testified to previously. Ms. Lover, Ceres is a co-founder and member of Climate Action 100. Is that also correct? Has Ceres and Climate Action 100 identified the ag sector, especially livestock production, as an industry which must reduce its emissions?
Microphone,
Would you turn on your
please.
microphone, please?
I believe there are some ag sector companies in that cohort.
Okay. And there's no way for the ag sector to reach net zero without reducing beef production, is there?
I don't know that that's clear. There are ways to do farming. There are ways to create energy that are less greenhouse gas emitting. I mean, many of the oil and gas companies that you were talking about, it's not about not producing, it's about creating options and transforming their technologies and capturing the oil and gas emissions.
You know, it's very interesting to me. My mother is 100 years old. She'll be 101. And the changes that she's seen in the last 100 years are absolutely mind-blowing in terms of the technological advances, the increase in life expectancy, the decrease in infant mortality rate, our overall prosperity, what we have created in this country. And there's one reason why we have seen the prosperity in the last 100 years that has never been rivaled in world history, and it's because of the commercial production of affordable energy. Every single one of you and your organizations want to destroy that. You are evil, and what you are attempting to do and the violations of law that you are engaged in is absolutely stunning. And I think it's telling that you won't answer my questions. With that, I yield back.